led Cole through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were the same smooth white material as his cell, and they curved and twisted in ways that made his head hurt. He tried to keep track of the turns, left, right, left again, but after a few minutes he gave up. If he tried to escape, he would be lost in seconds. They passed other along the way. Each one stopped and stared at Cole with their four black eyes. Some of them made sounds that the translator on's chest turned into whispers. He caught fragments. That is the human. The one from the death world. Look at its eyes. Only two. How does it see anything? Cole kept his face blank and his shoulders straight. He had been stared at before. He had been in rooms full of people who wanted him dead. A few curious aliens were nothing compared to that. Stopped in front of a section of wall that looked exactly like every other section. She pressed her hand against it, and the wall dissolved into an opening. Beyond was a massive chamber filled with at least 100 seated in curved rows that rose toward a domed ceiling. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform, and guided Cole onto it. "This is the High Council of the People," said. "They have been waiting to meet you." Cole looked around at the silver faces watching him. None of them smiled. None of them moved. They sat perfectly still, like statues carved from metal. "We know what you are thinking," continued. "You are thinking about escape. You are calculating odds, measuring distances, identifying weak points. This is what your kind does. This is why we brought you here." She gestured to the air above the platform, and suddenly the space was filled with light. Images appeared, floating and spinning in 3 dimensions. Cole saw worlds, dozens of them, hundreds. Some were covered in green forests. Others were nothing but ice or sand or endless oceans. Ships moved between them, ships of every size and shape, traveling along lines of light that connected one world to the next. "The galaxy is home to many intelligent species," said. 12 of us have formed a coalition. We share knowledge, trade resources, and help each other grow. For thousands of your years, we have lived in peace. We had disagreements, of course, but we resolved them through discussion, through debate, through formal contests between chosen representatives. Violence was rare. War, as your species understands it, did not exist. The images shifted. The beautiful worlds were replaced by something else. A planet covered in dark clouds, its surface and broken. Ships floated dead in orbit around it, their hulls torn open like they had been chewed by something massive. Then the came. A new image appeared. Cole felt his stomach turn. The creature on display was, with a segmented body covered in black armor that looked grown rather than built. It had 6 limbs that could work as either arms or legs, and its head was dominated by a circular mouth filled with rows of spiraling teeth. Its eyes, if it had any, were hidden beneath thick ridges of chitin. "The do not negotiate," said. "They do not trade, they do not form alliances. They move from system to system, consuming everything in their path. They strip planets of resources, enslave populations, and leave nothing behind but empty rocks. Our defensive forces engaged them at the border, 12 ships against 4. They destroyed all 12 in less than an hour. We sent a larger fleet, 50 ships. They sent 20. We lost 43. The images showed battle after battle, coalition ships exploding, escape pods being swallowed by vessels, planets burning. "We do not know how to fight," said, and for the first time Cole heard something in her voice that sounded like shame. "We never learned. We evolved on peaceful worlds. We developed technology through cooperation. The very concept of trying to kill another thinking being is almost impossible for us to process. When they attacked, our crews froze. They could not bring themselves to fire weapons. Even knowing they would die, even watching their friends die beside them, they could not do what your species does without hesitation." Cole understood now. He understood why they had taken him, why they had chosen a soldier, why they needed someone whose name meant deadly. "You want me to teach you how to kill?" Lowered her head. "We want you to teach us how to survive." A murmur ran through the council chamber. One of the in the front row stood and spoke. The translator on's chest caught his words. We have studied your species for decades. At first, we thought you were simply primitive, trapped in an early stage of development that all civilizations eventually outgrow. But the more we watched, the more we realized we were wrong. You are not primitive. You are something else entirely, something we have never encountered. Another council member stood. Your world has never known lasting peace. Your species has been at war with itself for all of recorded history. You have developed weapons capable of destroying your entire planet, and you built them faster than you built hospitals. You train children to fight. You celebrate warriors. You have refined the art of killing to a degree that makes us physically ill. A third member rose. We obtained your personal records, Cole, your service file, the missions you have completed. When some members of this council read what you have done, they could not eat for days. One of them required medical treatment for psychological trauma. Cole said nothing. He had done things in service of his country that he never talked about, things that kept him awake at night, things that had cost him his marriage. He was not proud of all of it, but he had done what needed to be done. Spoke again. They will reach the inner coalition worlds within 2 of your years. At their current rate, they will consume everything we have built, and when they are finished with us, they will eventually find Earth. Perhaps not soon. Your world is small and hidden on the edge of the galaxy, but eventually they will come, and when they do, your people will face them alone. She stepped closer to Cole, close enough that he could see himself reflected in her 4 black eyes. Help us, she said. Teach us to fight. Train our people to do what we cannot do ourselves. Save our coalition, and in doing so, save your own world. Cole looked at the images still floating in the air above him. The dead planets, the burning ships, the teeth of the... He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was 5 years old. She had his eyes and her mother's smile. If they came to Earth, she would be one of the first to die. She was small and soft and could not run very fast. She would have no chance at all. I have conditions, Cole said. His head tilted. Name them. Earth gets full protection from your coalition. Ships, sensors, weapons, whatever you have. If they ever get close to my planet, your people fight to defend it. Agreed. I get to send one message to my family every year. I do not care how you make it happen. I need them to know I am alive. Agreed. And when this is over, when they are beaten, I go home. Looked at the council. No one spoke. No one objected. She turned back to Cole. Agreed. Cole nodded. He had just made a deal with creatures he did not understand to fight an enemy he had never seen in a war he never asked for. But he was a soldier. This was what soldiers did. All right, he said. Show me what I have to work with. Cole stood in the middle of a training room that was 3 times the size of any gym he had ever used on Earth. The floor was made of something soft that absorbed impact, and the walls could project any environment he needed. Right now, they showed a simple gray background. He did not need distractions. He had enough problems already. 12 aliens stood in front of him, his students, his future fighting force. Looking at them made him want to laugh and cry at the same time. The largest was a named Drum. His species looked like someone had carved a person out of gray stone and then added too many muscles. Drum stood 8 feet tall and probably weighed close to 1,000 pounds. His skin was so thick that Cole doubted even a bullet could get through it. He should have been terrifying. Instead, he stood with his massive shoulders hunched forward, his eyes looking at the floor, his whole body radiating a desire to be anywhere else. Next to Drum was a named. He was younger than, his silver skin still carrying a slight blue tint that apparently meant he was not fully mature. Had volunteered for this program because his entire family had been killed when they took their home world. He wanted revenge. But every time Cole moved too quickly near him, flinched like he expected to be hit. The smallest members of the group were 3. They looked like lizards crossed with cats, with scales that changed color based on their emotions and bodies so flexible they could squeeze through any opening larger than their skull. Their names were, and Saul, and they communicated partly through speech and partly through the patterns on their scales. Right now, all three of them were a pale yellow color that the translator told Cole meant mild terror. The rest of the group was a mix of other species. Two, who looked like tall birds with 4 wings and no arms. A pair of, whose bodies were mostly transparent and filled with glowing fluid. A who resembled a giant spider but apparently found the comparison offensive. And 2 more who seemed to be present mainly because someone had to take notes. Cole took a deep breath and reminded himself that he had trained raw recruits before. He had taken farm boys from Iowa and turned them into operators capable of conducting precision strikes in hostile territory. He could do this. "All right," he said. "Today we start simple. I want everyone to form a line, and one at a time you are going to throw a punch at me. I want to see what you can do." Nobody moved. "That was not a request," Cole said. Drum looked at the floor, looked at the ceiling. The turn to color the translator could not identify. One of them made a sound like a kettle whistling. Had warned Cole about this. These beings had never intentionally harmed another sentient creature in their entire lives. Violence was not just unfamiliar to them. It was almost physically impossible. Their brains were not built for it. Asking them to throw a punch was like asking a human to stop breathing. The command made sense, but the body simply refused. Cole decided to try a different approach. "Drum," he said, "come here." They shuffled forward, each step shaking the floor slightly. Up close, Cole could see that his eyes were wet. The massive stone warrior was on the verge of tears. "I am going to throw a punch at you," Cole said. "You do not have to do anything, just stand there." Cole pulled back his fist and drove it into Drum's chest with all the force he could generate. Pain exploded through his hand and up his arm. It was like punching a concrete wall. Drum did not move. He did not even blink. But his eyes got wetter. "Did that hurt you?" Cole asked, shaking out his hand. "No," Drum said. His voice was deep and rumbling like rocks grinding together. "But you wanted to hurt me. I could see it in your body, the intent, the desire. How do you carry that inside yourself? How does it not poison you?" Cole stared at the gentle giant in front of him. 8 feet of living stone, strong enough to tear through steel, and he was more concerned about Cole's emotional well-being than his own safety. "It does poison me," Cole said quietly. "Every soldier I know carries damage. We do not sleep well. We have nightmares. Some of us drink too much or push away everyone who loves us. The things we do leave marks that never fade." "Then why do you do it?" asked from the line. Cole turned to face the young. "Because if we do not, the people we love will die. Because somewhere out there, right now, there is an enemy that wants to destroy everything we care about. And the only thing standing between that enemy and our families is us. People who are willing to take the poison into ourselves so that others do not have to." The room was silent. "I cannot make you into human soldiers," Cole continued. "You are not human. Your minds do not work like ours, but I can teach you to use what you already have. Drum, you are almost impossible to hurt. That means you can stand in front of others and protect them. You do not have to attack anyone. You just have to refuse to move. Can you do that?" Drum's rocky face shifted into something that might have been hope. "I could do that." Cole pointed at the "You three can fit into spaces no one else can reach. Pipes, vents, machinery. You can get inside an enemy ship and break things. Engines, weapons, life support. You never have to see another living being. You just have to be willing to cause damage to objects. Can you do that?" The 3 small aliens looked at each other. Their scales flickered through several colors before settling on a soft green. "We could do that," said Cole. Looked at, "You have perfect memory. You never forget anything you see or hear. That makes you the perfect tactical coordinator. You can track every moving piece on a battlefield and tell others where to go. You do not have to fight. You just have to think. Can you do that?" Stood a little, "Yes, I can do that." One by one, Cole went through the group. He found uses for each of them. They could fly faster than any ship could track, making them perfect scouts and messengers. They were immune to most forms of radiation, so they could work in areas that would kill anyone else. They could spin webs strong enough to stop a vehicle. Everyone had something to offer. By the end of the session, Cole had the beginning of something. Not a military unit, not a team of warriors, but a collection of individuals who might, with enough training, be able to work together against a common enemy. He called them the Misfit Platoon, and when the translator tried to convert the name into their languages, it produced 17 syllables of confused sounds that made everyone stare at each other in bewilderment. "Just call yourselves the Misfits," Cole said. "It means you do not fit anywhere else, but you fit here with each other." That night, as Cole lay in his quarters staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, he heard a knock at his door. He opened it to find standing outside, his silver skin pale in the dim light. "I wanted to ask you something," said. "When you go into battle when you know you might die, how do you keep going? How do you not freeze?" Cole leaned against the doorframe. "Fear never goes away. Any soldier who tells you otherwise is lying. The trick is not to eliminate fear. The trick is to use it. Fear makes you sharp. Fear makes you pay attention. What matters is that you choose to act despite being afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being terrified and doing the right thing anyway." Was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. "Can I stay and practice with the training equipment?" "It is late." "I know, but I think I am ready to try throwing a punch." Cole smiled. It was the first real smile he had allowed himself since leaving Earth. "The room is yours," he said. "Take as long as you need." He watched walk away down the curved corridor, one student at a time, one small step at a time. That was how you built soldiers. That was how you won wars. Cole closed his door and, for the first time in weeks, slept without nightmares. The world was called, and it was one of the most beautiful places Cole had ever seen. Rolling hills covered in purple grass stretched to every horizon. Twin suns hung in a pale blue sky, casting double shadows across the landscape. Small farming communities dotted the valleys, their buildings made of something that looked like white clay mixed with crystal. The air smelled sweet, like honey and fresh rain. It would be a terrible place to die. Cole stood on a hill overlooking the main settlement, studying the terrain through a viewing device they had given him. The misfits were spread out below, taking positions he had assigned during the long flight here. They had trained for 6 months. They had practiced every scenario Cole could imagine, but practice was not the same as combat. Practice did not shoot back. They were coming. Coalition intelligence had tracked their advance fleet to this system and was the only inhabited world in their path. The High Council had wanted to evacuate, to abandon the planet and let them have it. Cole had convinced them to let his team make a stand. If the Misfits could hold, it would prove that the Coalition could fight. If they failed, the losses would be minimal. A few volunteers on a world that was going to fall anyway. Cole had not told his team about that second part. His voice came through the communication device in his ear. "Ships entering the atmosphere. They are not slowing down." Cole watched the sky. Streaks of fire appeared above the clouds, dozens of them, falling toward the planet's surface like burning rain. Drop pods. Each one carried between 20 and 30 warriors. They did not bother with careful landings or strategic deployment. They simply fell from space and started killing whatever they found. "All units hold positions," Cole said into his communicator. "Do not engage until I give the order. Drum, are you ready?" "I am ready." This deep voice was steady. 6 months ago, he had wept at the thought of violence. Now he stood at the eastern barricade, his massive body planted like a wall, his stone hands gripping a shield that Cole had designed specifically for him. "Team, are you in position?" "We are in the water system," responded. "There is a junction point beneath the main landing zone. We can reach it in 4 minutes." "Wait for my signal." The first pods hit the ground half a mile from the settlement. The impact shook the earth, and Cole felt the vibration even from his hilltop position. More pods followed, crashing into the purple grass, tearing open the beautiful landscape. Then they emerged. Cole had seen images. He had studied recordings. Nothing prepared him for seeing them in person. They moved like insects, their 6 limbs carrying them forward in a scuttling rush that was somehow faster than it should have been. Their black chitin armor caught the light of the twin suns and reflected nothing back. Their circular mouths opened and closed as they advanced, revealing the spiraling teeth within. They made no sound. No battle cries, no communication, no noise at all except the clicking of their limbs against the ground. There were hundreds of them. All units engage. Drum moved first. He stepped out from behind the barricade and planted himself directly in the path of the first wave. They hit him like a wave hitting a cliff. They swarmed over him, climbing his body, biting at his stone flesh, trying to find weakness. They found none. Drum did not fight back. He did not swing or punch or kick. He simply stood there, absorbing the assault, blocking the path while his teammates did their work. The two launched themselves into the air from hidden positions along the settlement's edge. They dove through the formation, moving too fast to track, dropping small explosive charges that Cole had adapted from coalition mining equipment. The charges were not powerful enough to kill, but they scattered breaking their coordinated advance into smaller groups. "Talk to me," Cole said. The young was in the mobile command post, watching everything through dozens of sensors and cameras. His perfect memory let him track every moving piece simultaneously, something no computer in the coalition could match. 17 groups breaking off towards secondary entry points. Drum is holding the main approach. 3 groups heading for the water treatment facility. Team, you have incoming. 3 groups, roughly 90 hostiles. Understood. His voice was calm. The scales along her body would be shifting through colors, but her training held, moving to junction point now. Cole watched as the battle unfolded. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. His misfits were doing exactly what he had taught them. The blocked, the scouted and harassed, the moved through areas filled with dangerous radiation from damaged power systems, shutting down equipment that they might use. The spun webs across narrow passages, trapping smaller groups that other team members could then isolate. Then the first death happened. One of them was caught when a drop pod landed directly on the water junction. Cole heard the impact through his communicator. He heard scream her teammate's name. Then silence. Cole had lost men before. He knew the feeling, the hollow space that opened in your chest, the cold that spread through your body. But he also knew that grief was a luxury he could not afford. Not now, not in the middle of a fight. "Saul, report." A long pause, then's voice shaking but present. "Is gone. Saul is injured but functional. We are continuing to the secondary junction." Understood. Makes death mean something. It was harsh. Cole knew it was harsh, but sometimes harsh was what kept people alive. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of constant movement, constant adaptation, constant death. They kept coming in waves, and the misfits kept finding ways to stop them. Drum took so much damage that his stone skin cracked in a dozen places, but he never moved from his position. His voice grew hoarse from calling out positions and warnings, but he never made an error. The 2 remaining destroyed the water system entirely, flooding the tunnels beneath the settlement and drowning nearly 100 who had been using them to advance. And then, impossibly, they began to retreat. Cole watched through his viewing device as the surviving warriors turned and scuttled back toward their drop pods. Not all of them. Some had been too damaged to move, but enough. Enough to know that this was not a victory they could win today. "All units hold positions. Do not pursue, let them go." The misfits held, though the pods launched back toward their ships in orbit, and beautiful with its purple grass and twin suns, remained in coalition hands. Cole climbed down from his hill and walked through the settlement. Everywhere he looked, he saw the signs of battle: broken buildings, scorched ground, bodies of lying in twisted heaps, and among them the bodies of 2 coalition volunteers who had not survived, and a named Glow who had been caught in a structural collapse. He found sitting alone behind the command post, staring at his hands. There was blood on his fingers, dark and thick. Cole sat down beside him without speaking. "I killed one," said finally. "It came through a gap in our defenses. It was going to reach the medical station. There were wounded inside, civilians. I grabbed a piece of metal and I hit it until it stopped moving." Cole nodded. "I understand now," continued. "I understand what you carry, the weight of ending a life, even an enemy life, even a life that was trying to kill others. It still weighs something." "It always will," Cole said. "That weight never goes away. If you ever stop feeling it, that is when you should worry." Looked at him. "How do you bear it?" Cole thought about his daughter. He thought about his team back on Earth. He thought about all the missions, all the enemies, all the deaths that had led him to this moment, sitting on an alien world next to a silver-skinned being who was looking at him for answers he did not have. "Some days I do not," Cole said. "Some days I fail. Some days the weight is too heavy and I fall down. But then the next day comes and I stand back up and I keep going. Because there are people depending on me. Because the mission is not finished. Because if I stop, everything I have already sacrificed means nothing." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Thank you for your honesty." Cole put a hand on the young's shoulder. "Welcome to the war. You did good today. We all did." Above them, the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across a world that they had failed to take. The first battle was over. The first victory was won. But Cole knew it was only the beginning. The real war was just starting. 3 years passed faster than Cole thought possible. After, everything changed. The coalition that had been ready to surrender discovered that it could fight. Word of the victory spread through every connected world, and suddenly everyone wanted what Cole had created. Every species, every planet, every leader who had watched helplessly as the advanced now demanded their own misfit unit. Cole could not train them all himself, so he trained trainers. He established academies on 12 different worlds, each one adapted to the species it served. He wrote manuals and recorded instructions and developed tactics for creatures whose bodies were nothing like human bodies. They became living fortresses, advancing walls of stone that could absorb any assault. They became shadows, slipping into places no enemy expected and destroying critical systems before vanishing again. They became the fastest messengers in the galaxy, carrying information across battlefields in seconds. The advance slowed, then it stopped. Then, for the first time in recorded history, it began to reverse. Coalition forces retook 3 worlds in the first year, 7 more in the second. By the third year, they had been pushed back to the edge of explored space, their fleet broken into scattered remnants, their endless hunger finally checked by creatures who had learned to fight back. Cole was on the Coalition flagship when the message arrived. It came through every communication channel simultaneously, broadcast on every frequency the Coalition used. The voice that spoke was flat and mechanical, translated from a language no one in the galaxy had ever managed to decode. To the coalition of 12 species, we speak for all, we offer terms. Cole stood on the bridge of the massive vessel, surrounded by officers from 6 different species, all of them staring at the screen where the message played. No one moved, no one breathed. "We will withdraw from all conquered territories. We will cease all hostile actions. We will retreat beyond the boundary of explored space and never return. In exchange, you will deliver to us the human-designated Cole, the one called deadly." The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Was the first to speak. She had been promoted 3 times since Cole first met her, and now she commanded the coalition's entire military effort. Her silver skin was marked with scars from battles she had fought alongside Cole's trained forces. "They want you," she said. "I heard. One life for peace, one human for the end of the war." Cole looked at her. He had spent 3 years with these beings. He had watched them learn to fight, learn to kill, learn to carry the weight that came with both. He had seen grow from a frightened young into a tactical genius who could outthink any commander. He had watched Drum become a legend, the stone wall, the who never fell. He had buried friends and trained their replacements and buried those replacements too. "I will surrender if the Council decides it is the right choice," Cole said. "I do not want to die, but if my death ends this war, I can accept that." Shook her head. "The Council is already debating. Some believe the offer is genuine, some believe we should take it." "What do you believe?" "I believe the do not want peace. I believe they want you, your knowledge, your experience, everything you have taught us. If they acquire you, they will dissect your mind and learn everything we know about fighting back. Then they will return, stronger than before, and we will have lost our only advantage." Cole nodded slowly. That was his fear too. They had shown themselves to be adaptive, learning from every defeat, adjusting their tactics after every loss. If they captured him, they would gain everything he knew. Every strategy, every weakness, every secret. "There is something else," continued. "Something I think you need to understand." She gestured to the viewing screen, and a map of the galaxy appeared. Cole saw the coalition worlds marked in blue, the territory marked in red, and Earth marked in a tiny green dot on the edge of everything. "When we first brought you here, we believed in the power of names. We thought that a human called deadly would be the weapon we needed. And you have been. Your training, your tactics, your willingness to do what we could not do ourselves, all of it has been essential." She paused, and for a moment Cole thought he saw something in her 4 black eyes that looked almost like human emotion. "But we were wrong about why. Your name does not make you deadly. Your species does not make you deadly. What makes you deadly is that you never stopped. Every setback, every loss, every moment when anyone else would have given up, you kept going. That is not something we chose when we selected you. That is something you chose every single day for 3 years." Cole did not know what to say. "The Council will vote in 1 hour," said. "I wanted you to know, whatever they decide, that you have already given us more than we ever had the right to ask." The vote was unanimous. The coalition rejected the demand. The war continued. Cole led the final assault himself, commanding a strike force of 400 vessels against the. It was the largest battle in coalition history, and it was brutal beyond anything Cole had experienced. They fought with desperation, knowing that defeat meant extinction. The coalition forces fought with determination, knowing that victory meant the end of a nightmare that had lasted generations. The battle took 3 days. When it was over, the cast was destroyed, and the remaining splintered into disorganized swarms that scattered across the galaxy. Cleanup operations would continue for years, but the war was effectively finished. On the day peace was declared, found Cole on an observation deck of the coalition flagship. He was alone, staring out at the stars, his face reflected faintly in the transparent wall. "Your transport is ready," she said. "You can go home." Cole did not turn around. "Will I remember any of this?" "That is your choice. We can return you with full memory of your time here, or we can remove everything, like we did with your original team. You would wake up on Earth believing you were captured by human enemies and eventually escaped. Your family would never know the truth." Cole thought about it. He thought about his daughter, who would be 9 years old now. He thought about his ex-wife, who had probably assumed he was dead. He thought about all the things he had seen and done in 3 years among the stars. "I want to remember," he said. "Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts." Moved to stand beside him. "The coalition will protect Earth for as long as we exist. That was our promise, and we honor our promises. Your planet will never face your people will never know how close they came to destruction, but they are safe because of you." Cole nodded slowly. "What will you do now? The war is over. You do not need soldiers anymore. We will always need teachers. Has agreed to lead the academy you established. Drum is returning to his to train the next generation of. They are developing new techniques for infiltration and sabotage. What you built will not disappear, Cole. It will grow. It will spread. 1,000 years from now, species that have not even achieved yet will learn tactics that trace back to a human from a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy." Cole finally turned to face her. "I am going to miss you. And I will miss you, perhaps more than you know." They stood together in silence for a long moment, two beings from different worlds who had become something like friends over years of war and loss and victory. Then Cole straightened his shoulders and nodded. "All right, take me home." The transport landed in a field in Virginia, 3 miles from Cole's childhood home. It was night and the stars above looked different somehow. Smaller, closer, less full of danger. He walked through the darkness until he reached a small house with a light on in the kitchen window. His ex-wife's house, their daughter's home. He knocked on the door. When it opened, his daughter was standing there. She was 9 years old now, 4 years older than when he had left. She had grown so much. Her eyes were still his eyes, brown and serious. Her smile was still her mother's smile, quick and bright. "Dad," she whispered. Cole dropped to his knees and pulled her into his arms. He held her tight enough to hurt, and he did not care. "I am home, sweetheart. I am finally home." His ex-wife appeared in the doorway behind their daughter. Her face was a mix of shock and anger and relief, and 100 other emotions Cole could not begin to sort out. "Where have you been?" she demanded. 4 years without a word. The Navy told us you were missing, presumed dead. Where have you been?" Cole looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was teaching a new class of recruits. Drum was rebuilding, and Saul were training the next generation of saboteurs. The misfits were scattered across 100 worlds, carrying forward what he had taught them. "Training exercise," he said, "classified." She did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes, but she did not push. She just stepped aside and let him into the house. That night, after his daughter had fallen asleep in his arms, Cole sat on the back porch and watched the sky. The stars looked different now that he knew what was out there. They looked like friends. His name meant deadly. He had earned that name 1,000 times over, in battles that his world would never know about, against enemies his species would never meet. He had taught peaceful creatures how to wage war. He had turned gentle souls into warriors. He had carried the poison so others did not have to. But in the end, what he had given them was not death. It was the chance to live. And that, Cole decided, was worth everything.